We're excited to get started. Let's do this call to coach. Call to Coach is a resource for those who want to help others discover and use their strengths. You guys could almost say this along with me, couldn't you? We have Gallup experts and independent strengths coaches share tactics, insights, and strategies to help coaches maximize the talent of individuals, teams, and organizations around the world. Today, we have in front of us a live audience at the CliftonStrengths Summit. Give yourselves a hand for being here. For those of us who are joining us online, we do have a live chat room available for you right below the main video window. And you know, if you've watched me very much, we always do this. It's right below the main video window down there. Easy to log into, and if you want to join us, best way to get questions into the program, just bottom left-hand corner, it says log in, choose that, choose the guest account, put your name in where it says guest. You don't need those numbers. Take those out of there. Put your name in there. That way we know who you are and you can submit your questions during the program. Since we are doing an abbreviated program today, we'll not be taking your questions live, but we do have some great guests with us today, including nearly 1,000 people in our live audience here at the CliftonStrengths Summit. We want to welcome you attendees. Oh, let's stop that. Paul Allen. This is awesome. I never get to hear that when I'm doing this live. You guys could put that in the chat room every once in a while. That'd be all right. Paul Allen is our host today. Paul's a strengths evangelist and Gallup senior advisor. Paul, it's always great to be with you on A Call to Coach, and welcome.
Oh, hello. Hey, Jim, it's incredible to be with you on another Call to Coach, and it's especially amazing to be here at my favorite conference in the world, the CliftonStrengths Summit.
Paul, it's been a great week here in Omaha. We've had a week of learning and inspiration, networking and collaboration, and there's still more to come. Really interested in your favorite moment here at the Summit.
You know, I'll never forget Tom Rath's keynote this morning. It had incredible impact. To think how his life has been shaped by Don Clifton and Strengths and that Strengths support that he received throughout his whole life and what he's now done with his talents. In addition to that, I think I get more hugs at this conference than any other conference. I have a 2-year supply of hugs in the last 2 days. Jim, I know you probably share that experience. I love the hallway conversations. I love bumping into coaches from around the world. But another takeaway for me is that I think we've now created some new symbols of the global strengths movement. I think about the orange briefcase that every one of us can visualize whenever the going gets tough and the tough need to get going. And I think about the red tennis shoes and the red sweater in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And I can't wait for Carol Ann McGuire to draw a picture of the symbols of the global strengths movement, the briefcase, the tennis shoes, the sweater. And then most importantly, when I think about what Rhode Island taught all of us, if there are people here from 27 countries, if there are people here from all 50 states, imagine taking that Rhode Island powerful vision and spreading that throughout the world. That's kind of what we're celebrating today, is that global strengths movement.
Paul, that's a great transition. We have some amazing stories from around the world. I am very excited to get to them. Why don't we get started?
All right, Jim, when we gather together in this group, it's apparent the kind of impact that Strengths is having around the world. There are amazing things that came along with the invention of CliftonStrengths. CliftonStrengths gave us a new vocabulary. CliftonStrengths gives us a lens with which to more clearly see what's right in ourselves and each other, and it gives us a language to better express the gifts, the values, the talents, the strengths that every human being has. I've seen the impact of CliftonStrengths in my own family. My wife, Christy, is now a Gallup certified strengths coach. And recently we had a 2-day retreat with our family, turned off the phones, turned off the laptops. We had 11 of us there for 2 full days doing a deep dive into the strengths of every family member. And at the end of the 2 days, Each of the children wrote a winner's card tribute to one of their siblings and shared in the language of strengths what that child brought to the family. And it was an incredible, amazing experience. There are tens of thousands of stories of impact that all of you have experienced around the globe. When a person discovers their Clifton Strengths and receives coaching, we see the world changing. Now today I've invited a handful of very talented strengths coaches from around the world to join us on Call to Coach. The first is based in Washington, D.C., but she has a global reach. Faith, can you tell us about the strengths work that you're doing in Africa?
Absolutely. Thanks, Paul. And when you're talking about your family reunion, I need to join Paul's family somehow before the next one. But thank you. So honored to be here with each of you today. And the first story I want to share is one of our clients that we work with, whose mission is to empower unemployed youth around the globe by providing skills training for them and helping them find jobs. And so through that program, we've been able to bring strengths to 7,000 youth around the globe, including in the US, Kenya, India, and Spain as well. And there's one story in particular I wanted to share with you today about a young man I had an opportunity to meet as part of this program. And he was somebody that was incredibly smart, but was unable to go to college because his family could not afford it. So he was working odd jobs and joined the program with the hope of getting full-time employment. And so as part of the program, he had the opportunity to learn about his strengths. And he had Learner in his top 5, which really helped him basically get up to speed really quickly in the program, but also helped him learn really quickly to his employer. And when I interviewed him a few months ago in Nairobi, he told me that his dream was to work at a reputable company where he had the opportunity to wear a tailored suit to work every day. That was his definition of success. And he's graduated for the program, and now he works at one of the top insurance companies in Kenya. And he told me he wears a tailored suit every day, so he's fulfilled his promise. And it's just a really incredible story about how one person across the globe was impacted because he had an opportunity to learn about his strengths. And imagine the impact if all youth had the opportunity to hear more about what's right about them, and then had a coach like many of you in this room help them figure out how to aim them so they could go further faster.
That is an amazing story, Faith. I love that social initiative. And, Clifton Strengths is the language of possibilities, and certainly it helped unlock the potential of that young man. And now he, in turn, is giving the gift of possibilities to his own siblings. So what a tremendous story. Thank you for sharing that. Now, from Africa, let's move across the globe to Australia. Claire, I understand that you're working with an organization to build a group of success coaches. Now, that sounds really interesting. What exactly is a success coach?
Okay, hello Paul, and g'day everybody. So we're working with Torrens University and Think Education down in Australia. They're part of the Laureate International Universities. It's actually the world's largest higher education organisation. And they've got a really clear vision to improve graduate employability. They have trained over 60 strengths coaches, and those strengths coaches all have a full-time role as a success coach. So every single student gets assigned a success coach, and this person works with them to help them uncover their talents and turn them into strengths to achieve their academic goals, but also keep them on track for their future employability. The CEO of Laureate speaks about straddling really mission and margin. And so with this mission of giving every student the opportunity to be coached, where they meet with their success coach every 3 weeks, they were also able to show that after just 3 months, they improved student dropout by 6%. And to put that in perspective, that's about $3 million to the organisation. So can you imagine if every single student has a coach to help them stay on track with not only their academic goals, but their future employability, whilst also benefiting the organisation? It's fantastic.
Thank you, Claire. I met a success coach here at the summit yesterday, and I love that term. And I think if the world could organize education systems around giving every student a success coach, imagine how that would change how schools and universities describe, develop, and support every student. And imagine how that would affect how a student approaches learning and future career decisions. I think that's a very, very powerful story. Now we're going to move to Mexico, where we have Blanca, a great strengths coach from Mexico. Blanca's been working on initiatives in Mexico to grow businesses throughout the country. And what she's seen is that in order to grow businesses, you have to grow people. So Blanca, tell us what you've seen firsthand about companies investing in people.
Sure. Gracias, Paul. Hola, Jim. Hola, coaches. And as you know, at Gallup, we're really passionate to help entrepreneurs and small businesses because they create jobs and they make the economies to grow. So I was working with this family-owned company in Mexico. They produce engines. So they were struggling, and they decided, okay, we need to bring Luis. Luis was the youngest brother, and he was always a dreamer. He had been labeled, and he was the different one in the family. So they said the only work he's going to do is very simple, just to collect the bills. Guess what? He disliked that so much, but he tried hard. However, he was so ineffective. When we coached them and he saw his ideation, we really saw he was the only one. Can you believe, Paul, his face, how it changed from knowing he was useless, as he said, to being the one that was valued for the very first time by his family? It was fantastic. So he just pulled out all of his drawings and designs he had created while he was waiting to be paid at the clients, and started creating a link with his brother. So they made this complementary partnership. They were the power of two. They went to Silicon Valley, and now they are great suppliers in Mexico and in the US for some companies. So he just became to me and said, this is the very first time I feel I am a valued member by my family. So that was so beautiful.
Thank you, Blanca. I got chills while you were telling that story. I just think that Don Clifton even speculated in 1992 that maybe there's no such thing as failure. There's just a misalignment with talents and roles. Can you imagine if everyone in the world were able to be assigned or fit into a role that allowed them to use their strengths every day at work, like this young man was able to do? And he goes from useless to feeling useful and very, very valuable for his whole family. It's not easy always to find the right fit for a person, but the language of CliftonStrengths gives us leaders, managers, and employees the chance to have conversations about what contributions each person can make and make it more likely that they're going to be put in the proper role. Now, Bruce in London is going to join us. And Bruce, I understand you work with a number of large enterprise clients throughout Europe. Can you tell us how one of those organizations is becoming a strengths-based organization?
Sure, Paul. I've got the pleasure of working with a very large, successful chemical manufacturer based in Amsterdam. We've been working with them for the last 6 years. Now, it's a combination of strengths development work as well as our tried and tested engagement approach. So it's a combination of these two things. Now, what's interesting with this organization, it's a paint producer, okay? And so most of these guys weren't really interested in this kind of thing to start with. But what we found was that there's this one guy in particular, and he's a VP for manufacturing that just jumps out for me. Very tough Dutch guy. I think you might have met our Dutch friends here this week. Where are you guys? Okay. They're not owning it now. Okay, so I'm coaching this vice president of manufacturing. He's leading with achiever. He's leading with competition. He's always driving to the next accomplishment. And what we realized was that he was never, ever celebrating the success of his team. And this was also reflected in his praise and recognition scores inside of his engagement results. So we worked through an idea of how could he do this better? And we agreed that he would do a thank you speech to all 12 of his leadership team. So at a team dinner before the team session, out of the blue, this guy stood up and gave a thank you speech to each and every of his 12 leadership team, pulling on his individualization, but the rest of his team could not understand what had happened here, which led to this. He got this standing ovation from his team. Now, inside of this company, over the last 2 years, we've actually developed 150 strengths coaches from Shanghai to Amsterdam, to London, to Chicago, and then in Sao Paulo. So these guys have taken it really seriously. And the impact, what difference does it make? In the last measurement on the engagement scores, they got their most meaningful increase since year 2. So we're now in year 6. And their CEO has referenced the success in their successful financial results to the work based on strengths that has led to their employee engagement gains as well as their performance gains. So this is quite a significant move for a tough, demanding European-based company.
Paul, like I do from time to time on Call to Coach, I want to jump in here. So, Bruce, I want to get this right. You said 150, not codes, but coaches, right? You said 150 coaches in this organization, and we know, and it's been great to watch over the years, as organizations, as larger organizations really embrace this idea of really front-loading their organization with coaches, we see improvements in performance and engagements. And so, Bruce, thank you for sharing that with us. Faith, we know that you bring to us this wealth of knowledge from the Whirlpool. And every year Gallup goes out and interviews and gets the opinion and how people feel all around the world. I think some 95+% of the world's population is represented in our Whirlpool. Can you bring another story to us from that perspective?
Absolutely, Jim. Thank you. Yes, so Jim talked about this a little bit yesterday, which is the Whirlpool, which is probably one of my favorite things at Gallup outside of strengths. And what it is we basically go out and we ask a representative sample of 98% of the world about their opinions on the most important topics. And so we do this in over 140 countries across 140 languages. And leaders, organizations, and governments use this data on a regular basis. And so, for example, some of the people we've worked with are the World Bank, who are tracking financial inclusion. We've worked with the International Labor Organization to help them understand perceptions about women in work. And we also work with the United Nations to help them quantify global food insecurity. And so, as you can imagine, a scope this big requires a large team around the globe. So we have great partners and organizations that we work with. And there's one partner I wanted to highlight today in particular in Indonesia. And as many of you may know, Indonesia is one of the largest countries in Southeast Asia. And its mountainous terrain makes it complex to collect data. So it's really critical for our teams there to work cohesively to really ensure success. So they had an opportunity to participate in team sessions, which a lot of you learned about this week. And they really learned about the unique value that each team member could contribute and how they could work more cohesively as a team. They also said that session increased their engagement, which we know is a critical metric for both quality and productivity. And with this rich mission work, it's really important that we have people that are engaged and committed to collecting the will of the world.
So thank you, Faith. You know, it's interesting that when individuals go through a strengths journey, it can be extremely powerful. But as Don Clifton taught, strengths only develop in relation to another human being. So strengths is really a team sport. And when individuals become more self-aware, they become more comfortable in sharing what they bring with the rest of their team, and that can completely change how teams work together. In order to truly experience the power of what each of our strengths reveal, we all have to learn to love who we are and let go of who we are not. And Blanca, you've seen something very interesting working with a national police force in a South American country of all places. Can you tell us what you've seen firsthand there?
Sure, Paul. So this police colonel his mission was to protect the community. So he was in a very difficult area where very bad things happened to his people. So I was there also hoping I would survive. But you can imagine that affected him emotionally a lot. So when we saw his CliftonStrengths report, guess what he did first? He went directly to the bottom. And he was worried to see 33 command, 34 discipline. He thought, that can't be. No one can see that report here, because to him, those were words that a high-ranking officer should have. Well, things got worse when we went to the top, and he saw his number one, empathy. To him, that was too soft to be a leader in the organization. Once we worked on that and he could see empathy, loved it, get it to him, and build it into strength, he was able to connect emotionally with his people and get them much more better prepared to help the community. He still thought that style would not be accepted, but guess what? It did. And he's now a general, he's very effective, and he found he didn't need to have command, but what he really needed was to be his genuine self.
Blanca, I love how CliftonStrengths can help each of us to become a more effective leader by being a more authentic leader. And it's so powerful to embrace who you are and to lead with your strengths. And every leader does it in their own unique way. So thank you for sharing that story. Bruce, I understand you've seen strengths impact a leadership team in the Middle East.
Yes, Paul. One of my most favorite projects right now, we're only 7 months into it, is working with a highly reputable media company called OSN in Dubai. Now, they're going through this significant transformation. They've brought in a new leadership team over the last 9 to 12 months. Now, a lot of these guys have tremendous transformation experience, but none of them have actually used a strengths-based, engagement-focused combination to drive performance. Luckily for us, their talent director has experience of Gallup, and she's been very influential to help get us in there and get the leadership team on board. Gwen's in the room, so thank you for your influence, Gwen. Now, what we needed to do was to think about how do we get these guys to work together a whole lot better. And I was there just 3 weeks ago, and we used this power of two activity, which is all about rating the relationship, and then how important is the relationship between pairs. So we got these two guys together. They rated the strength of their relationship at a 1. Okay, so 1 out of 5. They rated the importance of the relationship at a 5. Now, the business needed to sort this out. This couldn't carry on any further. These guys were ready to knock each other's head off, but it had taken 9 to 12 months for them to not get in a room to actually talk about this. So the structured use of this activity got them in a room, got them to clear the air, and got them to start to appreciate and respect each other for the strengths that they bring to the table. And now it feels like we're in a bit more of a grown-up situation, and these guys are starting to collaborate to move towards the performance goal that the business needs for them to actually achieve. Now, the impact of strengths, now bear in mind we're only 7 months into this project, is phenomenal. We've just got the engagement results, and the top 20 that we have coached versus the 13 that are still to come. The engagement increase for those 20 is 44% better than the ones that are about to be coached. So for us, this is a game changer for our work in the Middle East.
Thank you, Bruce. Great story. Claire, I want to come back to you because I understand that you've experienced how CliftonStrengths can work across cultures and help bring people together. Can you share an example of that with us?
Yes, I would love to. So we're really proud of the relationship that we've got with Accenture, and that's a global organization of over 400,000 people. And they've made a significant culture change, which takes a strengths-based approach to the way they manage people and develop performance. Every single manager and leader at Accenture is expected to know the talents of the members of their team. And to equip them to do this, they take part in a powerful development program, but they've also got tools, technologies, and a performance development system that's aligned with their vision of becoming a truly human organisation, whilst also delivering high performance. And Paul, recently I was speaking to a lady in Australia who's part of the talent strategy team, and she's also a Gallup certified strengths coach. In her role, she's expected to manage a team that she never meets face to face. Most of them are based in the Philippines, and she sits in Sydney. So what this coach was able to do through a common language of strengths was to understand their work needs, their work style, and the value that they all brought to their role, having never had the opportunity to meet face to face. And it really brought the whole team together and helped them to strengthen the relationships despite having not ever met in person. So I love this story because it just shows how strengths can unite people from different countries, different backgrounds, and across all sorts of time zones with really a common philosophy and understanding and narrative.
Thank you, Claire. Thanks, Faith. Thank you, Blanca and Bruce, for doing such great work and for sharing those amazing stories from around the world. I absolutely love being a part of this great global strengths movement. I love how Don Clifton kicked off the strengths movement years ago after a lifetime of studying what was right with people. It's awesome to me that all of us here in this room are doing our part to build a strengths-based world and help more people reach their full potential. Don's vision, which is Gallup's vision, which is our shared vision, is to make a better world built on the strengths of every person. To do that, we need to spread the global language of strengths everywhere. Remember what the wise old owl said, "Brer Rabbit, the world doesn't have to be this way." We could have schools and workplaces where people are allowed to concentrate on what they do well. Wouldn't that be a great world? Back to you, Jim.
Thanks, Paul. You know, it's a real honor to be able to work with you, this community, every single week. We get out there, we hear from you, we hear from you in the chat room. We are excited about the things that you are doing. And we want to hear your stories. We get an opportunity to, you get an opportunity to hear us, and we'd like to hear you. And Mike and I were just talking this week. We'd like you to start capturing those stories and getting them to us. And so follow Call the Coach, follow Theme Thursday. We'll have some more information out on the Facebook group about how you can do that, but we want to hear about your exciting stories. The other night, I got asked the question, what am I excited about? And I still hold to the 1 million and 1 billion numbers that we have for you guys. And we can't do this alone, and we can do it with you. And when we, at the end of the program, I always say, if you found value in this, we'd ask you to share it. And not just the webcasts and not just what we do online and YouTube and the podcasts and all those things, but we want you to share this movement, take it out. And guys, let's get beyond this top 5 and let's get the performances. Tom said today, he said this morning, let's really start changing people's performance in what they're doing. Can we do that together? Can you do that with me? Also want to remind everyone to take full advantages of all the resources we have available at the Gallup Strengths Center. Just gallupstrengthscenter.com. Send us your questions or comments. We'd love to hear from you. You can always send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. By the way, that email address, use it. Send us your questions. We'd love to have that, coaching@gallup.com. You can also catch the recorded audio and video of this program as well as the past ones. And if this is new to you, if this is the first time you're like, I had no idea. And you know what? I go into classes all the time and I say, how many have listened to our webcast? And usually it's about half. So this might be a first for you. We'd love to have you go out to our coaches blog. We have a lot of resources for you available out there. Coaching.gallup.com. If you're interested in becoming a Gallup Certified Strengths Coach, you can see a listing of all of our courses that lead to that. And we've got additional programs for you out there this fall. We're adding a bunch. You don't want to move away from that. You should bookmark this site as well. Courses.gallup.com. Thanks for joining us for this special edition of Called to Coach live from the Clifton Strengths Summit today. And with that, we ask you to stay seated and we bring Called to Coach to a close.